your friendly reminder, don't be getting in cars with a lot of these men or women, anyone unhinged. It's been a while since I talked about car trauma and how a lot of women especially have car trauma because of angry men, or doesn't have to be a man. Some people new here. I got a lot of new followers yesterday, so I'm not sure if you can handle my page yet. So if you're a man and you follow me and you're like, not all men, don't. Anyway, today I'm going to do the column of a column, the what the hell mail, where I read a column that I want to respond to because I don't have my own yet. If you're new here, I do a comment song at the end that's really random, but also I have a Patreon where I'm probably going to do a column over there. I do travel content. I do lives with journalists, activists, historians, all kinds of amazing people, comedians. The lawyer, one of the lawyers who took down Larry Nassar, all kinds of people. So head on over there. That is how I pay my bills these days. So thank you, patrons, for supporting my work. Also, don't forget about FemFree. My mutuals are encouraging women to just buy from women and femme-owned businesses, especially Black women, especially right now, to head into the next administration with our priorities set. Anyway, so Dear Carolyn is my favorite column to be a columnist of the columnist. I usually agree with her. Let's see if I agree to. By the way, Mose is on vacation up at Grandma and Grandpa's house because I'm going to be with my family this week. So in case you're wondering, is he dead? No. He is okay, but we have this cup to remind him of the stages of Mose. Shade, where's my mom? Dead. Anyway. Dear Caroline, my husband is a competent driver. As a result, he drives a bit aggressively. That seems to contradict the other. What do you mean he's competent and drives aggressively? What? Sounds more like he's cocky. Aggressive driver is not a competent driver. A defensive driver, sure, but not an aggressive one. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. As a result, he drives a bit aggressively. In the past 5 years, I've really come to dislike driving anywhere with him. When someone does something stupid, which is always the case, he starts yelling and using foul language in the car. I've told him many times that the other driver can't hear him. He knows that. I don't want to hear one expletive after another in a 10-minute ride. This behavior has turned me off, and he won't change. I asked him numerous times, and he still thinks I'm uh-oh. Anytime a man says you're overreacting, he's gaslighting you. Seriously, this seems like a much bigger problem than just like being aggressive and yelling in the car. Look, this is a nuanced conversation. I'm going to go into it in a bit because I'm going to give my own opinion and my own personal stories as somebody who has a lot of trauma from being in cars with men. Angry men. But overreacting because he seems unhinged and he has thousands of pounds of metal, or however much they weigh, I don't care. And your life in his hands, your fragile life in his hands, one false move, you're done. And you're like, this is concerning. Because when he's that ramped up, he's not just, even if he is a competent driver, if he's aggressive and is saying all this stuff, do you feel safe? Because that's what it seems the real problem. So if I did not feel safe and someone was like, you're ever acting, we got a much bigger problem than your freaking driving. You know, before I get more into my own personal story and my own opinion, although I've already given it, let's see what Carolyn had to say. If you're new here, I read these and then I skim through them. So I always forget everything. And sometimes I don't catch a lot of details. So I forget what she said, but I think I remember agreeing with her. Love passenger. An angry, aggressive driver is not, thank you, Carolyn. Carolyn is not as unhinged as I am. But she is direct, and I love that. He may be skilled, but he is distracted by others and therefore dangerous. Thank you. That right there. Since this is a newish development, there could be underlying health issues, even if it's just justifying prior tendencies. Fair point. I don't know how old this man is, but there could be some health issues there. Depression can present as anger, as can cognitive. That's what I was thinking of. Cognitive decline, to name two. It's not an excuse, but it may explain it a little. It doesn't explain the gaslighting, though. Someone convinced he's the only competent admiral in a sea of idiots has a roughly 0% chance of admitting he's a problem. Oh, Carolyn. I get that. But a girl's gotta try. And a spouse does too. I feel unsafe, and you're not making bad drivers better. Stop dismissing me. That's a good way to put it. I kind of feel like he won't take it very well, but maybe. You have that tact too. His negating you. Urge him to get a health workup, citing the uptick in anger. In the meantime, this response in the original chat declined to be a passenger. When he is driving. You drive or take separate cars. Maybe he will take a message more seriously. Good luck. Okay, there's some other feedback on this, but I want to give mine first. This is my dad. First of all, I'm narcoleptic. I take medicine for driving. If I drive more than 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it's very likely I will fall asleep at red lights or, just driving. And I don't want to die, and I don't want other people to die because of me, so I take my medicine. My dad, I am sure, had narcolepsy, but he was unmedicated because he went to the doctor way more than anybody should for like all kinds of things he thought he had. But what he did not actually treat was his mental health in like a deep way, or narcolepsy. So as a kid, I have so many memories of my dad. I'm gonna take this off. Driving us somewhere doing this. We're like, so that is how he stayed awake. Or he would, cold air on his face or whatever. He had all kinds of tricks, and yet he still fell asleep with his children in the car. Now, my mom was a single mom and raised us mostly, so I was not in the car that much with my dad. But when I was, it was terrifying. He ran us straight into a tree one day. Don't know why. Don't remember anything about that other than just hitting a tree with him. And I do remember being like, I feel like I'm the adult in this situation, having to calm him down. But when my dad started to get Alzheimer's, he's a terrible driver. He's a very nervous driver. He also wrecked 3 different cars because he actually made a report to Nissan or whatever that there was like a ghost in his car. Like, he didn't say the word ghost because he knew no one would take him seriously. But he said it mysteriously surged. Like, vroom, vroom. That wasn't the car. That was him. He constantly slammed on the gas, the brake, the gas, the brake. I watched him do it. But he was like had restless legs. And so he was convinced the car kept running into things. He literally ran into recycling, like one of those shipping containers at the recycling area, and almost like unalived a bunch of people there because it surged and went just blam, right? Nissan never recalled the car for having like a ghost engine problem because it was my dad's foot. Anyway, I was terrified to ride in the car with this. He is the kind of person who could not handle feedback very well, though. So, being a self-abandoning daughter of a diagnosed narcissist, I just kind of like hedged my bets every time, went to the dad's driving casino, hoping, I don't die on my way home from the airport, whenever I'd fly home to visit. He always insisted on picking me up because that was the thing that was special to him, was to pick me up at the airport. That meant so much to him. And I'm like, Anyway, it finally got to the point where I knew I was going to die. I was a rock climber, whitewater raft guy, literally traveled around by myself, sleeping in my truck for 5 years. I have lived like the craziest lifestyle. And I was like, I know if I die, it is going to be in a car with this man. Little did I know I would date an abusive man years later who almost purposely unalived me by driving me off a cliff, Thelma and Louise style, minus feminism and hand-holding and like an empowering ending, but rather like, I'm going to kill this bitch, right? So I have a lot of trauma around being in cars with men who have really fragile ego, really terrible anger, problems with anger, especially when women are around. And not having any control in that situation and not wanting to die, but not really knowing how to like manage this. In addition to getting in cars with lots of people, not just men, but a lot of times men, because they were my weakness, back in the day, where they were, under the influence or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Self-abandonment, All this to say, I finally realized, thanks to the help of my older sister, who was, parentified older sister, that I need to stand up. That I actually don't want to die because I don't want to hurt my daddy's feelings. And oddly enough, wouldn't you know, the more I learned to stand up to my dad, the more I could stand up to other men and just people in general, right? So my sister and I devised this brilliant plan where she would come and pick me up, but it was always some excuse like, oh, Melanie's called me because her flight is early. Like, we were just lying all the time. She's like, oh, I have a hair appointment down there, or anybody, literally anybody to come get me. Because I can't tell this man that he's dangerous because, first of all, he wouldn't believe me because he'd be like, you're a ghost. You know what I mean? Like, he's deflect. But the point of this story is find a way to not be in the car with them. The other thing, it is not just because a man is an angry driver doesn't mean he's abusive, doesn't mean he's a narcissist or anything like that. Because I can't tell you how many men I know who are like gentle men. Like my friend, her husband, like I cannot even imagine him raising his voice. And he doesn't. But she was like, yeah, there's something about cars and men sometimes where it brings out like their worst in them, or this like being bullied at the schoolyard something. And like she literally had to give him a talking to once because she was like, stop, you're not going to drive this way with me in the car. I'm a precious human life and you will not do this to me. And whoop, that ended that. He was like, oh my God. That selfishness and entitlement that comes under patriarchy or any of these systems of oppression. Whoever has the most power is the least thoughtful in the room usually. And so, she had to remind him. And I've actually had to remind my husband a few times because he used to like have to drive a lot for his job in Lyon. And Lyon is like, I won't drive here. I used to live in a car, y'all. I love driving. Not here. I hate it here. I'm just a passenger princess here because I don't want to deal with all this stuff. So it's a really hard city to drive in, and he had to do it as part of his job. Like a lot was in his car. So then he has to drive whenever we go anywhere outside of the city. And yeah, and I had to have a talk a few times. I'm like, I don't care how frustrated you are. I cannot be in a car with a man who is angry at other drivers. And if you are angry, you need to learn how to emotionally regulate yourself because it is you. And as I reminded him, my past. I literally almost died at least once because of a man driving my car almost over a freaking canyon in New Mexico. Or my dad who, narcoleptic, whatever, with the ghost engine. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, you're right. So why am I throwing those examples in there? Please don't take out of this video that like, if I'm in a car with a man who's frustrated and driver, he's a narcissistic abuser who's trying to unalive me. That's not the point of this, okay? The point is that a lot of times something about the car brings out something in people too. It brings out the worst in a lot of us. But I wasn't raised to be, outwardly aggressive. I was raised to be, a people pleaser, little clown or whatever. So it's even hard for me to go, because I'm like, I don't want to make anybody mad. Even if they're literally like doing something terrible. I'm like, my part of my healing is learning to use my horn and being like, stop it. Because normally I'm like, hey, you're almost going to hit me. Beep, beep. You know what I mean? This stuff is deeper than you think. Everyone's allowed to have a bad day behind the wheel. But if somebody is consistently not thoughtful, consistently aggressive, yells, can't emotionally regulate with you in the car, and you've brought it up and they don't change, get out of that car. Consequences. The natural consequence of you putting my life in danger on a regular basis because you will not emotionally regulate is that you do not get to be in a car with me. Either I drive and you shut up and don't backseat drive, or we take separate cars. And that's going to suck because that's more gas, more time, blah, blah, blah. But I will not get in a car with somebody who is going to make me scared and trigger all my crap. Doesn't mean they're not allowed to, be frustrated sometimes. I'm just saying. It's about effort. And if anybody gaslights me and says I'm overreacting for being, then nope. But none of the people in my life do that or would because they know better, right? The point of this is if they are gaslighting you. I've talked about this a lot. A lot of abusers will abuse their partners in the car They don't lay a hand on them, but they purposely scare them. They purposely put them in a position where they're like, I'm in control, don't make me mad. And so riding in a car with an abusive man, a narcissist, or just a immature, refuses to self-regulate kind of person, doesn't have to be man, because it's across gender, that's dangerous. They could literally take your life. I've done so many videos on this like over a year ago. I don't think it's been a long time since I've talked about so it's a good reminder because, you know, holidays are here and you may be in cars with family members or spouses or whatever, going long distances or even short to get in an airport or whatever. Get an Uber, get another friend, get a taxi. You do not have to let the person who you do not trust the driving of, especially if they're older and are like can't see anymore and like have crazy legs like my dad did. You do not have to make them pick you up from the airport. You don't. One of the messages on my page is that part of the indoctrination for women under patriarchy tends to be self-abandonment and, you know, tiptoeing around the egos of men and just defaulting to them and thinking that, oh, well, they're the leader, they're the I trust them. Don't! If they are not, like this woman is like, he's an amazing driver, but he's just aggressive and angry and yells all the time. He's not an amazing driver. We got to stop lying to ourselves. Stop lying to yourself. Because if you get in a hospital and you're paralyzed for life because this forker was like, ah, and then bang, you're going to be so mad at yourself for abandoning yourself and trusting this person when you intuitively knew what he's doing was dangerous. That doesn't mean I'm not blaming you, but I'm saying every time I'm pissed at somebody else, a lot of times I'm actually pissed at myself because I abandoned myself and I did not stand up for myself and I did not center my safety, emotional safety, physical safety, whatever it is. So stop just going along with it and hoping it works out. This is literally life and death. Cars are dangerous. Cars are responsible for, I don't know the statistics, but in like bonkers number of deaths. There's a lot of men out there who unintentionally or intentionally do not regulate their emotions when they're in a car and don't think about the impact it's having on the people in the car and don't think about the potential devastating consequences of them refusing to calm themselves down. They can calm themselves in front of their boss. Why can't they do it in front of you in a car? That's a choice. They can emotionally regulate. They won't around people they're comfortable with, who they know there's no consequence. Make the consequence. I like this person right here. See, this is why we have to talk about this. Sometimes this is not intentional. Doesn't mean they're an abuser. It is a sign of abusers, but it doesn't mean they're an abuser if they're driving like this, okay? Just want to be really clear about that. I was having the same issues as your husband. A while ago, I offhandedly started watching bad driver and road rage videos on YouTube. And believe it or not, I totally adjusted how I drive. The more you watch them, the more you become aware of the pointlessness of driving aggressively and also what leads to accidents. I now drive 20% slower and get amused as other ragers around me. See if he'll watch them with me. I mean, that won't fix the gaslighting problem, maybe, but whatever it takes. This is a good point. None of you drives as well as you think you do. So start by being more demanding with the driver in your life who is making you uncomfortable. I'm confident they are even worse in an empty car than an occupied one. And when they inevitably hit and unalive someone, your life is going to be thrown asunder. It's worth 1,500 awkward conversations and demand to keep that out of your future. This is the thing. You don't want to be tied up into this. You don't want to lose your life. Also, your entire life could be changed by this person continuing to behave this way. And this guy writes in about how his wife is like. So again, it's not just men who do this, but we just know under patriarchy that conditioning teaches men that aggression and anger and all that stuff is like their language of everything, whereas women are taught everything but that. I'm just gonna include a couple more comments because there was a few points raised on like the Facebook post. So one commenter brought up the Johnny, I don't know who these people are. People have asked me to make a video about them. I don't really know them enough to say that, but this is an example of this. A hockey player and his brother were killed by an aggressive driver. Both were husbands with pregnant wives left behind. News reports suggested that when the driver was arrested and taken to jail, he called his wife, who told him that she knew this was going to happen. Aggressive driving had been a huge conflict in their marriage. Last I heard, he's still in jail. So you could lose everything you own because your husband is doing this crap, even if you're not in the car. This person is like my son and I were just talking about how when his dad gets on our nerves, we yell in the car when we're alone. Saying it seems to be a space where it's easy to yell. The son is not yelling or volatile type. This is what I mean. Like, y'all, I've told y'all, I was just like, even though I may be like afraid to project my anger outwards and let anyone know I'm mad, the car would be a place where I would tap into my own rage. And then she's like, he should be grateful he's not in PA getting behind those Amish buggies. That's so random. Anyway, the point is please take this stuff seriously. I talk a lot about, as a former whitewater raft guide and outdoor adventure person, like, don't assume that men are better drivers. That, like, just ask an insurance company. There's a reason why they pay more in insurance than us. Don't assume they're better drivers. Don't trust them with your life unless you have seen they are actually great drivers and are going to try not to end your life. And just be careful in general, because men's decisions oftentimes impacts women more than even men. Women pay the price of men's bad decisions because that's how the system is set up. So be careful out there, y'all, and take care of yourself. Let me know if you heard the comment song. Hey, welcome to the comment song. Fête de Lumière edition. The comment song. You see, this is a little preview of my video today on my Patreon. Traveling, doing stuff like this festival about the plague. This is about the plague, surviving the plague. I don't know, something weird French history that I should know more of. Anyway, Fête de Lumière. A little preview of Fête de Lumière, the comment song. It's random. It's just a time for you to go tap, 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 tap. Although you're kind of watching this, hopefully. So maybe you can't write while you're doing that anyway. I'm improvising this. I don't even know what I'm going to say when I hit record. Fête de Lumière, comment song. Look at this Santa. Fête de Lumière, comment song. Little food truck. Look at that. Christmas holiday edition and the sexy statues in France. The comment song. Anyway, let me know if you heard the Fête de Lumière comment song. Et voilà.